Gentlemen, Ravenhold.
All right, men. We all know why we're here. It's 2013, and it's time for Movie Co. to make money. Now I want ideas. I want original, and I don't care where they're coming from.
We should continue to nostalgia bait people off of the 80s.
My God, Mark! That's exactly what we need to do. All right. Now, there have been a lot of happy ones, a lot of Footloose and Robo-Copy. Now, I want something along Elm Street. What do we got?
For some reason, we're the ones that have the rights to the first Evil Dead movie. Not the Evil Dead 2 that everybody likes. The first Evil Dead, the cheesy one.
Perfect! We'll remake that one, but we'll make it grittier, darker, bloodier.
More bloody.
Yes, bloody. More blood.
Maybe it should even, dare I say, rain blood at the end.
Dare you say it indeed! Reginald, write this down! Alright. Now, we need something to draw in this 2013 crowd. Something a little different. Spice it up a little bit.
We should have slower and more gratuitous violence, because that's why people like horror movies. Just the blood and guts.
Yes! Exactly. Give them the gore. I want at least 2 limbs lost in every scene. Reginald, are you writing this down, Reginald? Now, what are we gonna bring him in with? What's gonna be the change? What are we gonna say la zi with it?
Maybe we should be really, really edgy with it. And the villain ends up being the redemptive hero at the end.
My God, Mark! Did you take a golden crap this morning? Because it's coming out your mouth.
Thanks?
All right. Now, we got a good hooker. We got some nice meaty middle parts. How we're getting this all off?
Maybe we should have a end credit scene that'll totally never pay off with a beloved character that we've ignored to this point.
Genius! Reginald, give me Bruce Campbell. Give me Bruce Campbell right now. Okay. Now, while that's going on, what are we gonna do for lunch? I need some. Let's do something fresh, something healthy.
How about Chipotle?
Jimmy, Mark, I don't care who you are. Get that ordered right now.
Yes, sir. Let me guess. Burrito bowl?
It's like you're in my brain, Mark. Burrito bowl.
Welcome back to Entertainment Rebooted and another episode of Cinema Revisited, The Evil Dead, where we are watching all of the Evil Dead movies and we're talking about the good, the bad, the ugly, and the iconic of this amazing franchise. And then because this film came out in 2013, we don't even care about the modern audience.
Nope,
That's
at all.
Right. We're just like the movie studios now. But we'll talk about how this works as a remake of the Evil Dead, since we have seen the original 3 films at this point.
Yes, we have.
Of course, I am joined by none other than the channel's kaiju, Pat the Great and Overpowered.
Lightning beam.
Lightning beam. All right, Pat. So we watched 2013's remake of The Evil Dead.
Yes, sir, Bob.
And as we like to do for those who have not seen this film or perhaps need a little bit of a recap, we like to give the plot synopsis. So if you could, Pat, let's have a brief plot synopsis for The Evil Dead 2013.
We begin in the woods. A girl is running through it and she's being chased. She hides behind a tree and whoosh, a bag goes over her head and the guy says, I caught you now, you evil bitch. And then they butt stuck her, they tie her up in a basement, and they're chanting in a different. And there's a lady with the Necronomicon.
We're already getting off to a very good start.
Speaking in a different language, saying, "Do it now. This is only the evil book can undo what it did."
Mm.
And she's like, "Oh no, please let me go. Don't hurt me. I want to go home. Please don't hurt me." And then a hand reaches forth and snatches the cover off her head. And she's like, "Father, why are you here? Where's Mother? Where's Mother?"
Don't lie to me, you evil skank. You murdered your mother, and now you must be purified by fire.
He douses her in gasoline, lights her on fire. And then, as the flame consumes her flesh, he pulls a shotgun and blasts her on the head.
Extra crispy. Headshot.
Then we take the scene and we break back to the beginning. We have a nice cameo, a nice callback to the original one of a car coming down the road, traveling through the forest, across the river,
and towards a very familiar to this point cabin.
They pull up and out pops a man and his girlfriend, and they are greeted by two of his old friends, who said you've been waiting, who apparently got there 2 hours earlier.
And somebody's waiting for him behind the house.
He goes behind the house and there's his sister.
It is his sister, despite the fact that they flirt. And they keep having this weird chemistry throughout the entire movie. Like, a little too friendly.
Yeah. It's his sister. And then we come to find out that they're at this cabin because his sister has got a bit of a drug addict.
That's right, baby. She's a junkie.
And she's here to detox, and she dumps her drugs into the well.
The only well on the site, which probably is also where they're all going to be drinking from this entire trip to the cabin. Good detox, guys. Good job. Smart.
They go into the house, and she's like, "Oh, what's that smell?" But no one else smells it.
It's a smelly smell. A smell that smells smelly.
The friend's like, "Just so you know, we don't think we should let her leave here if she tries to."
Because the last time that we did this, she said all of the same words and all the same promises, but 8 hours later, she wanted to leave and she immediately relapsed. So we should make sure that we keep her here until she's fully detoxed.
Her body can't take another overdose.
Because her heart stopped. It had to be defibrillated. Clearly a death sentence in movies.
Yes. So, she starts detoxing, but she's just, "I can't take this smell!" Smashing things. They're all standing in the living room, and the dog starts scratching at the carpet.
Like a little rug. And eventually they pull out the rug. And what do they find, Pat?
They find a trap door with blood drag marks to it.
So obviously, because it is a horror movie, what's the smart thing to do?
Descend the trap door.
And try to find out where the smell is coming from.
They go down the stairs that nearly break the first time they walk down them.
Epic foreshadowing.
And there, at the back wall, is a door. They open it. And hanging from the ceiling on barbed wire is mutilated cat corpses. Very upsetting.
There's a lot of animal corpses, and it seems like an oddly familiar location.
And there,
at least to us, the audience,
is a black, charred support beam.
Almost as if it's the same beam from the beginning of the movie. But if you're not sure yet, we do get a flashback. We get a flashback that the character on the screen also kind of reacts to. Oddly.
And there, on the table in the back of the room, is something bound in a black plastic bag in barbed wire, and also a shotgun.
And 13 shells.
Yes.
Of course, what do we do in this situation? Do we clear out the cats, or do we start looking for perhaps a hospital or other kind of rehab facility?
Why, we clear them out!
We clean out the cats. And we grab the mysterious object in the black bag and the barbed wire and give it to our friend, the weird, like scholar guy who's like a high school teacher, who we have fondly named Hippie Longstocking.
Yes, Hippie Longstocking takes the book, the bound object, and they're all around the room. She's still not doing all too well, and it starts raining, a cold rain.
And she's pacing back and forth in circles. While this is happening, Hippie Longstocking has the book, and he decides, wow, there's a lot of barbed wire around this thing. It seems to be a pretty dangerous object.
He clips all the wire.
Time to open it.
And he uncovers the book. He starts flipping through it and sees marks like, leave this book alone.
Destroy this book if you can. Don't read it.
Do
out
not
loud.
read it. Do not write it.
Don't
Do
even
not
think about
hear
it.
And he finds written words, but he can't see it because it's all been covered up. So you know what he does?
He writes in the book. He gets a piece of paper, he scratches so that he can see what's written in the book, and then decides to read it out loud, like the book told him not to.
Yep.
It's a horror movie, ladies and gentlemen. We're making good decisions.
And from the woods comes an ominous force that blasts into the woman that is pacing in the woods. She pukes in the sidewalk and looks up and sees a person in the trees.
She looks
Oddly familiar.
but definitely super duper creepy.
She runs inside and she's like, I don't want to be here anymore. You gotta get me out of here. And they're just like, May, we've decided we're not gonna let you leave. Mia, we've decided that
Only character I remember.
Mia, we've decided we're not gonna let you leave. And she turns to her brother and she's like, you gotta get me out of here. You're here for me. You gotta get me out of here. And he's like, maybe they're right. And she's like, you're supposed to be here for me, not for them. She runs out. So she storms to her room and snatches a pair of keys undetected.
And then she decides to do what any angsty teenager does and bail out the window after making a show of slamming the door.
She bails out the window and she gets in the car and she starts driving.
Erratically.
Through the harsh rain. She barely gets the wipers on. And then she looks up and there's a person standing in the middle of the road with a bloody chest.
So she swerves into a bog.
And gets a little unconscious for a slight bit. And then she manages to get out of the bog and she climbs to the other side. And she hears her friends and brother calling, Mia, where are you, Mia?
So she does what any smart person does after having a very traumatic crash. Go farther into the woods. Away from the voices.
She looks behind her, though. And then popping up from the bog is a mud-covered person.
It's true. That is actually what happened. And then she runs into the woods farther.
She runs into the woods farther and she falls into a bramble.
And then it's Pat's favorite kind of film.
No, this is your favorite type of film.
Don't at me like that.
You added me.
I know. That's right, baby. It's Tree Tie 2.0. And it's... We make the joke, but... Good God. It's a... Like, the trees are the same as they were in the first film where they are doing very, very sketchy things, but this one decides because it's 2013 and a remake, baby, we got to be a lot more graphic.
She sees in the bramble as she's bound what looks to be an exact copy of her, and it spews forth a black,
like, thorny branch
covered in slime that enters her. I'll leave it at that. They find her by the bramble, and she's beaten up and she's cut up from the thorns. So they take her back to the cabin, and the nurse friend patches her up.
Don't worry, she's a nurse.
Yeah, she's a registered nurse.
She's not a doctor. They made it very clear.
Yes. She patches her up. He's like, maybe we should get to a hospital. And she's like, I'm giving them everything that we give her at a hospital.
Except for doctors. But we don't need them. Doctors.
Let's see.
So she goes back into the house. She has like a few more fits and things like that, and she eventually gets out of the house, attacks one of her friends, and vomits blood on the nurse. After she vomits blood on the nurse goes back to get another shot for her, but she decides to clean off some of the blood.
Yeah, she's cleaning herself off, and she's grabbing a tranquilizer.
And then she sees a figure in the mirror, and she also becomes possessed and goes mad.
And starts cutting her own face off with a broken shard of glass.
Hippie Longstocking goes to look in on his girlfriend, the registered nurse, and finds her grotesquely trying to cut her own face off, and she decides that Hippie Longstocking is now Hippie Pushpin.
And she shanks him with the glass. And then he shoves her off, and she grabs the needle, and she gets the eye.
A lot. Like, she's hitting his eye, and then the needle gets stuck, and of course we have to have a zoomed in shot
of him pulling the broken needle.
And it has to get stuck on the eyelid while he's about to get attacked also, so there's like high tension on top of the eye horror.
She creeps towards him, and he grabs a broken piece of sink and smashes her skull in.
And then that's when everybody else comes in. Granted, this commotion's been going on for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You think that they would come in after the first, oh good God, and falling on the toilet, but no.
Nope.
No, now's the time.
So they go out to the cabin, go out to the shed, because a lot of crazy stuff's happening in the cabin, and the shed's more sane at the moment.
It's also the only place that has a first aid kit.
Doesn't even have a first aid kit.
It's not even a first aid kit. It's like patches and duct tape, but that's all you really need.
Yes.
And some dirt. Rub it in.
So he puts a patch on there and he duct tapes it on his friend.
The friend who definitely needs stitches.
He sends the girlfriend into the cabin to get sugar and water.
Got to keep them electrolytes up, baby.
While she's in there, Mia calls from the basement. Aren't you here to help me? I just want to go home. And of course,
it's a horror movie.
She goes down to the basement. She's like, are you okay? We had to lock you down here. You were being so violent. We had to. You're all gonna die tonight.
I can smell the stink of your soul.
Kiss me.
Yeah, so she attacks her, and of course, like, we had that epic foreshadowing of the stair. So obviously when the girlfriend tries to run back up the stairs away from the girl who's been possessed that they locked in the basement to begin with, stair breaks.
Yep.
Allowing her to be grabbed after she gets out.
Luckily the brother gets in time and he pulls her out and he slams the door shut after she's been bitten in the hand.
And after she's gotten like kissed. And so she's got blood and crap all over her mouth.
Yes.
Let's just put it this way, that it takes them forever to get to people who are screaming for help. Long enough, in this case, for the girl to lick the X-Acto knife on the sharp end. Mia.
Split her tongue.
Yeah, splits her tongue clean in half, and then, kiss me. And goes and does, ugh. Anyway, they get the girl. She's starting to kind of clean off her hand, and it starts getting possessed. Meanwhile, this all is happening. We get Hippie Pushpin.
Finally tells the brother that he read from the book.
And he's managed to translate the majority of it, and he tells him of the 3 ways they can get rid of this evil.
You must either burn it, dismember it, or bury it alive.
And if it gets 5 souls, it'll bring about a mutilated form of pure evil upon the world and rain blood.
Soul taker.
The girl that is having her arm possessed, of course, goes back into the kitchen, and she's having a dialogue with like Mia, who's like coming out of the caged area thing. Like she's like looking at her and like talking to her.
Crashed down on the floor, and next to her is a carving knife, an electric one.
And so she decides to pull an Ash.
And she cuts her arm off with the carving knife.
But of course, we get to watch it. It's like in slow motion. There's so much body horror and gore. This is like, it's like a Saw movie with the Evil Dead as flavoring. Honestly, there's so much like, let's zoom in and do this very slowly so everybody can see every muscle and tendon as she's cutting through her arm with a carving knife.
So they come out to the kitchen in time to have her turn away from the fridge and her arm just...
Yeah, it's holding on by like a single
Sinew.
strand of muscle, a sinew.
Yeah.
And just...
She said, I had to cut it off and I feel so much better now.
And she's dying of blood loss. So, of course, our hero... What's his name?
Chuck?
They didn't even bother to actually give any of the names of the main characters on the back cover here. But anyway,
duct tapes her arm.
Yeah, instead of giving her a tourniquet, he decides, you know what'll really fix this issue? Duct tape.
Duct tape fixes all.
And it's the only thing on our medical kit. So he kind of patches her up a little bit. She's starting to feel a little bit better. They talk a little bit more. And then they get attacked again
by her.
Well,
she turns.
Yes, while they're talking. Yeah. While they're talking, she turns and gets a
nail gun.
A nail gun without an air compressor.
It's an electric nail gun.
Still, it doesn't seem like... It shouldn't have that much power. It has an insane amount of power, and she starts using it like a 9mm.
And she's blasting Pippi Longstockings now.
Girlfriend got her gat.
Pippi Pushpin with nails, and she blasts the boyfriend 3 times in the leg.
And then she decides to go fully, like, after Pippi Pushpin. Pippi Pushpin.
With a crowbar.
With a crowbar, and he gets the Jason Todd treatment, nearly beat to death.
At that time, the boyfriend's finally able to shoot her arm off with the shotgun.
And then she turns around and is like, why would you do that to me?
And she's back to normal, and she crawls over to him and dies.
So we think.
Oh,
yeah, she does kind of like bleed out. I guess it's like dismemberment. I thought that he ends up having to like take her head off.
No.
Oh. That's fair. She does just kind of like...
Yeah,
it's kind of anticlimactic.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they go back out and they're like, oh, I gotta get my bleeding friend who's like, now he's got like nails. He's been beaten near half to death. His hand's a mess. And he's just like, he sits him down next to the Jeep and he just goes, oh shit, I forgot my keys.
I'm gonna get my key. I'm gonna get the car keys. I'm gonna do what needs to be done. So he starts pouring gas all throughout the cabin. And as he's about to light it, from the basement, he hears his sister sing the nursery song, the lullaby that their mother sang to them.
So he decides he's going to do it the hard way and bury her alive.
And then resuscitate her.
Hopefully.
Yes.
So he goes down for a final confrontation with her after gearing up. And he ends up in the ritual room, the burn room, and it's now full of water, of course.
Yes.
And he gets an epic fight where he almost drowns to death.
But luckily, Pippi Pushpin comes in just in time and bashes Mia on the back of the head with the crowbar.
And then he gets the final knife to the gut. His pin has been pushed. And he falls on the ground.
He dies on the stairs and his friend just takes him and gently lays him in the water.
So that he can float.
He then takes his sister and puts her in a red dress and a plastic bag over her face and starts burying her.
But of course he buries her from like feet up instead of like head down. I would think that if you're burying somebody, you should go head first because then it might be a little bit easier because you're not looking at their face the entire time you're trying to bury them alive.
But if she wakes up, it's a lot easier to use your body to force your head out of dirt.
Exactly, and she's possessed.
It's easier to force your head out of the dirt than like your body. You have more leverage with your body and torso for your head than your head as leverage for your body and torso.
Okay. I see you've thought this through.
Yes.
Oh no. Anyway, so he buries her and like while he's burying her, she kind of comes to and she's a demon, like devil thing. So she's taunting him and being like, "Oh,
why do you hate me?
You hate me so much.
Our mother's soul is burning in hell.
And she hates you. Of course she hates you. You suck. You're so stupid."
He finishes burying her, and then all of a sudden the storm stops, and everything's silent.
So he decides to uncover her and try to give her a fibrillator with something that he rigged together with a car battery, two needles, and jumper cables. So he decides that he's going to defibrillate her. And of course, the last time that he tries, the battery dies. He thinks that it hasn't worked. So he is like, oh no, this is really awful and it sucks so bad. And then his friend,
his
Hippie.
sister then stands up though. Because she's alive.
Yeah, that's true. She's alive. So she stands up and they have like a little bit of a reunion. He decides, oh shit, I forgot to grab the car keys after all. Goes back into the house and he runs into none other than Hippie Pushpin, who is now Hippie Undead. And they have a confrontation.
He has... What does he have? Because, he takes the wire cutters and he stabs the brother in the neck.
That's true.
Right there. And there's just bleeding out and barely gets to his sister. And she's like, run.
And
run.
Yeah, and she's like, no, I can't possibly. But then he lights the entire house on fire, closes the door, locks it.
Closes the door, locks it.
Lights the
and
house.
Shoots the gas tank with the shotgun.
Because that works.
And the entire house goes up in flame. And it's just the sister left alone.
And she has truly vanquished the night. She gets in the car and leaves. But wait!
And there on the ground, she sees the necklace that her brother gave her. So she picks it up. And all of a sudden, something drops from the sky and lands in her hand. And if it isn't a drop of red blood rain.
And then it proceeds to be a Slayer song and rains blood.
And from the ground bursts forth an arm that tries to grab her. And crawls forth a very emaciated person that is the demon of souls.
And so she goes and she kind of runs. She tries to fight. She ends up trying to get a chainsaw. The chainsaw's out of gas. She gets gas. She ends up in this dark corner of absolute, totally convenient claustrophobia. After having a convenient cave of claustrophobia moment, mind you. But in the convenient crook of claustrophobia, she almost gets stabbed to death with a machete. Of course, we have to have the very nice part where she gets sliced in the knee and we get the styrofoam rubbing against styrofoam noise as it's coming. She ends up busting free, gets the chainsaw
running.
She
runs to the back of the Jeep. And then crawls under it, and she's getting the chainsaw running, and Demon comes up next to it. She's got it running, and she and takes out one of its legs.
And it falls on the ground, so she starts rolling out
to the other side of the Jeep.
But the demon, being super strong and stuff, because he works out, even though he doesn't look like it, it doesn't look like it.
Lifts the Jeep and tips it over, and it lands on the girl's wrist right
perfectly where it's super sensitive,
and she can't get it out,
so she has to literally pull herself away from her hand by dislocating her hand from the muscles and the sinew and the skin, and we get to see that in great detail.
And she's able to get the saw, and she's backing up. And the demon comes up to her, crawling on the ground. He's like,
I'll feast on your soul.
And she says the greatest line of the movie, feast on this.
Wow.
Shoves the chainsaw onto the head, goes,
and then just splits it clean up. And then it falls to the ground and then just dissolves back into the ground.
Dissolves into a bloody puddle into the ground as it reabsorbs into the hells.
And then it stops raining blood.
And she tucks her arm in like this and wanders into the woods.
I mean, you'd think that would be the end of the movie, but of course, the studio, for some reason, decided that this movie deserved an end credit scene. Hinting at a sequel.
Groovy.
That's right. We get a shadowy figure of Ash from the original Evil Dead, and he says his catchphrase, groovy, to the camera, and then it ends. And apparently that was supposed to be like a hint at a Mia-Ash crossover movie, and it never happened.
Yeah.
So, speaking about things that never happened.
Hey!
Just kidding. This is happening, unfortunately. Anyway, so we'll go ahead. Let's talk good, bad, ugly, iconic about this movie. This is definitely kind of out of the norm for what we usually do for Revisited, because most Revisited movies are older films. This is, I think, the newest film that we have seen for this series.
Cocaine Werewolf.
Well, Cocaine
That
Werewolf
was
Be Visited.
Sorry.
Yeah, so Be Visited is different. This is the newest one for the Revisited that we're doing.
Yes.
So usually for Revisited, we like to be like, hey, what would you do for a modern audience? But 2013, yeah, 12 years ago, but that's still a modern audience, I would say.
It's same century.
It's same century, very close, within a decade. So we'll go ahead and we'll just talk about it. Just how does it work as a remake? Are there things that they could have done better? Are there things that maybe would have helped it? Yeah? We'll go with that. Okay, so how about good? What would you say, as it is right now, 2013's Evil Dead, what's good about this movie?
It is not like a... It's really nicely paced.
Yeah, it is. It gets going. And when it gets going, it gets going.
Yeah, like it's not like a nail drag, slow, like fuel burn. It's like a cheetah chasing an antelope across the plains.
It's great visual storytelling.
Thank you.
There's truly just like a masterpiece of words. It's a cheetah chasing a gazelle to death. Yeah, the pacing is pretty good in this one. Like once it really starts moving, it really does start moving. I agree with you that the pacing is pretty solid in this one. Yeah. Personally, I would say that for a remake, I really like the premise that they're in this weird cabin in the woods because she's going through a detox. I think that's a pretty unique premise. It makes sense, like why a group of college kids are going to this super creepy cabin in the middle of nowhere that they haven't been to in forever. It's like it's semi-familiar environment, but it's been abandoned for so long that things could have happened without them really realizing it. And her going through a detox, it is an interesting way to kind of force the trap. If you know what I'm getting at. Yes, she's a junkie. We can't listen to what she says. We can't really trust what she says. She's going to do anything that she can to get home. She's going to do anything she can to get back. She's relapsed before. She's relapsed a whole bunch of times. So this has to be the end all be all.
Yeah.
I think that that's a great premise. So overall, I would say that the premise of the story is very good.
Yeah.
How about bad?
You don't get a lot of character development. Like, they're just kind of thrown into it. You don't have a lot of, like... You don't care for the characters that much.
That's fair. Yeah, like, the only characters that you get much development on are really Mia and the brother. But even then, the brother, you get so small bits of fragments that they try to keep him a little mysterious and odd. Like, all the characters, it's like they have this really deep, rich backstory and they don't dive into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is lacking.
Yeah, you just kind of get, here's people. They're dead now. Care.
Fair. I would say that the bad is, I was not a fan of how tropey it is. It has so many horror tropes in it that it actually is kind of painful to watch. This has to be one of the most tropey horror movies that I've seen. Every decision that they can make is the worst decision. Everything that they do. And the thing is that it's not even like some horror movies get away with some of the tropes like, oh, let's go into the strange basement. Let's go into this weird hall. Let's actually open the door to the voice that's coming out of the basement. Yeah. You know, it's things like that where it's like some horror movies, yes, they're tropes. They have to go. There has to be plot devices. Something has to happen for the horror thing to happen. Yeah. However, this movie, it's really like the people have to be completely brain dead to kind of fall for a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because, yes, they go to this strange cabin in the woods. It makes sense. They have this really good premise. If it's just Mia finding all this weird stuff, then it's like, okay, she's trying to get out of here. She's trying to manipulate us. She doesn't want to be here. Why would she keep here?
Yeah.
However, all of the things that they run into really are like, hey, there's a trapdoor that has a whole bunch of blood getting dragged into it.
Yep.
Let's investigate. Oh, we trapped our friend who's possessed and has tried to murder multiple people at this point.
In the basement.
In the basement where we locked her. And I'm literally on my way back to get sugar and water for my friend who is nearly dead because of an attack that he's undergone from our other compatriot who got in contact with this person. Yeah. I'm going to open the door and try to talk to her like a person. The door
opened itself.
And even dumber then. The door opens itself. I'm going to go down into the door. I'm going to talk to her.
Yeah.
The whole, hippie long stocking and his actually translating it and reading it, I think was just really dumb. It's interesting to have him like translate it and find it interesting and stuff, but him actually seeing all these like clearly written in red in English. Do not read this. Do not look at this. This is very dangerous.
Yeah.
It'll open the door. He wants to get out. He will kill you all.
He is watching.
He is watching. Like all of these warnings in English, plain red English. Do not do this.
Yeah.
And he still does it anyway.
Yep.
It's over the top how tropey it is.
Yeah.
So that's the bad. I wouldn't say it's like really ugly because, it is a horror movie. You got to fall into some tropes. You have to have some grace with these things. But it is like brain dead.
Yeah.
How often they fall into these tropes.
Yeah.
So I would say that that's bad. Not quite my ugly, the thing I'd warn people about, but it is bad.
Yeah.
How about ugly? What's the thing that you would actually warn somebody about with this movie?
Extreme gore.
I agree. 100%. The ugly in this film is the amount of gore.
Like
I'm not a fan of gore.
It's the film. Like truthfully, I didn't actually mind it that much, but like you gotta warn. It's not necessarily like ugly to me. Like it worked with this film. You just gotta warn somebody it's coming.
I would say to an extent. I think it goes a little bit over. I'm not a fan of gore personally myself. Like I'm not a huge fan of like body horror and things like that. I hated the Saw movies. The premise, interesting. Yeah. Hated watching them though.
Yeah.
This movie and even like The Evil Dead. The Evil Dead's always gory.
Yeah.
Like, but it's like over the top gory where it's like it's literally like it spews blood, like blood spewing everywhere. This one was like, no, let's take all of the things that people hate about body horror and do it. Yeah. We've got the sound of a machete sawing a kneecap.
Yeah.
We have to get that very clearly and very slowly and long.
Yeah.
We have somebody literally yanking themselves away from a limb.
Yeah.
We have somebody who's got a needle in their eye. Like multiple times, needle in the eye. We get people who are losing limbs, chopping off limbs, and we get to watch the entire time as they're chopping through the limb.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's gore, there's acceptable gore, there's acceptable body horror and things like that. And with Evil Dead, I was expecting some of it. Obviously, it being more modern, I was expecting a little bit more. It felt a little bit too much. Mm. It's like, okay, can we not have one of the body horror things?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, can we not have one of the body horror things? I would warn somebody to just be like, hey, like, if body horror is really not your thing, stick to the original Evil Dead.
Yeah.
If you're fine with some gore, that's the right amount of gore in my opinion. Very gory, but this one I think was just over the top. I would definitely warn somebody.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, this is like gore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although positive on the gore part of it is like the movie, however, is not as scary as I thought it was going to be.
No.
Like, yeah, it's a lot of gore and body horror, but you don't get a lot of the jump scares. You don't get a lot of the actual, like, I thought I was going to actually, like, have the whole, like, oh, this is so scary. It's going to give me nightmares.
Yeah.
So how about, you have any other thoughts? I kind of took over that one. I'm sorry,
good, man.
Okay, how about iconic? What's the thing that you would tell somebody is, like, kind of worth watching it? If it's worth watching it.
Truthfully, the turnaround of her being the only survivor.
That was interesting. Like the redemption.
Yeah.
The fact that there's actually redemption.
Yeah.
I say that's pretty iconic, yeah. It's a good twist. It's a good turn.
Yeah.
Iconic, like what makes this film worth watching? I think that this is very much like it's an interesting case study in remakes.
Yeah.
I think that it does okay for a remake of The Evil Dead. The Evil Dead, the first Evil Dead, in my opinion, is just it's not a good movie. It's fun because of how campy it is.
Magnificent.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
It's a good movie in the sense of like I'll watch it.
Yeah.
It's not a good movie though.
Yeah.
The Evil Dead 2, in my opinion, is like the best in the series. I liked Army of Darkness, but I think Evil Dead 2 is like peak horror comedy.
Yeah.
As far as like trying to make like an actual like gritty remake of a horror film from the 80s, I think it does pretty well. So I would say that like, hey, if you wanted like an actual like modern take with horror elements, like trying to be more scary than the original one, then it's an adequate remake.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of like adequate remake, inadequate remake, let's say, do you think that this is like a good remake? Would you say that it's like a really good remake? What are some things it did right? What are some things it did wrong? What are your opinions regarding this?
I actually think it's a pretty good remake, like for a modern audience with like they changed it up a little bit, like, but there's still a lot of nods towards the old, towards the original. I do believe it was a pretty good remake. Like, I'm not gonna be like, boo, you ruined it, you fools.
Yeah, it doesn't have the heart. Yeah. You know, I think if you're like a hardcore like Bruce Campbell fan and a hardcore like Army of, if you're on the spectrum, if you're on the spectrum of like Evil Dead fans where you lean more towards Army of Darkness, over like Evil Dead 2, Evil Dead, you're really not gonna like it as a remake.
No. Because
there's no real comedy in this.
No.
This is not a funny movie.
No.
It's not even like cheesy horror. They tried to do it very seriously.
Oh yeah.
So I would say that would be a warning as far as like a remake. If you really lean more into, I really like the Army of Darkness, this probably isn't the type of remake you're going to really like.
No.
If you really liked Evil Dead 2, it's so different. But I think as far as like a remake and a reimagining for a modern audience, it's solid. Yeah. This is a pretty solid film. It's not in like my top 10, but
no, it's good.
Yeah, if it came on, I'd turn it on. I guess. I don't think it's like my every October list.
No,
but it's not bad.
Not bad.
It's not a terrible movie.
No.
Not great, but not bad.
Yeah, as far as like horror movies go, it's really not that scary.
Yeah, that's true. And it's another thing too where it's like it's not really that scary. I feel like this is like a really good intro to modern horror.
Okay.
You know, like if somebody's trying to get into horror and they want kind of like an entry point, it's like I think this really serves well, like say like a teenager where they want something more than like horror comedy. They want something more than like a standard like 80s slasher or something.
Yeah.
I would say that as far as like a modern gore movie, this is a good entry point.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
I think.
All right.
So it does a lot of things really well, but some of the things that I think it doesn't do well is just the character development's really not there. It's very shallow. It kind of brings out the tropiness a bit too.
Yeah.
Because of how shallow the characters are. I think that, you know, you have this group of friends that they're supposed to have this shared relationship. They've all been up to the cabin multiple times before.
Yeah.
Maybe an explanation more of that. Like even just having a bit of the expositional scene where it's like, oh man, I can't believe that we brought her back up here. And it's like, well, we needed a familiar location.
Yeah.
So that, you know, she felt a little bit more at home. We haven't been up here since mom died, but we have, but we all are familiar with this area. It's isolated. We don't want her to hurt herself.
Yeah.
We want it to be isolated so she doesn't run off.
Exactly.
You know, things like that. Maybe explaining like why somebody would have had that ritual in the basement at the beginning of the film like explaining the fact that it's been abandoned for years.
Yeah.
There's no explanation really. We get kind of like the subtle hints and stuff, but there's no real. No, we haven't been up here in years.
Yeah.
It's mom and dad's old cabin or something. Like,
yeah.
And I get that people really hated that, or people really just have this tendency to hate exposition for the sake of exposition. Some movies do benefit from having that, though.
Yeah.
And this one would, I think, having more time to really care about the characters and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have any notes, like what they could have done to improve it?
No, I think we're thinking along the same line.
That's the problem with this channel. We think too much alike. It's like I'm sitting next to somebody who's my identical
evil twin.
All right, then. I guess that's kind of like our thoughts about Evil Dead 2013. We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Which one of us is evil Ash, and which one of us is good Ash? In your opinion. Ah, yes.
Yes.
Otherwise, what are your thoughts about Evil Dead 2013? We are getting very close to the end of this series, so we are leaning towards, I think we're leaning towards doing Leprechaun.
Yeah.
So if that interests you, let us know in the comments, or if there's something that would be more interesting, we're open to your feedback. Otherwise, subscribe if you haven't already. Share us with your friends if you like movies like we like movies, and your friends probably will like movies like we like movies. Why not? Share us with your friends. Otherwise, I don't have any other thoughts. Do you have any other thoughts, Pat?
Nope.
Okay, then I guess we'll see you guys in the next video.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching.